My name is Alex Zealand. I work across the Potomac at the Arlington Public Library. Was there a thing? That's it, right?
That's it.
Okay, that's me.
I'm Kevin Smith. I work at Wake County Public Libraries. It's a large public library system of 20 locations, approximately 1 million people. My title is currently, I guess, I'm Senior Library Manager for Technology and Community Engagement.
There's water involved.
Hi, I'm Katy Kelly. I'm Communications and Outreach Librarian at University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio.
I'm Lisa Bunker. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I work for Pichman County Public Library, where I'm the social media librarian.
I'm Victoria DaFreese, a recent graduate from the University of Tennessee, where I worked in the Office of Information Technology. I got my master's in information science, but currently I work in a science data management company. But I'm going to reference how we manage social media to engage students.
My name is Joyce Garczynski. I'm the Communication and Development Librarian at Towson University.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Wainwright and I'm the Outreach and Student Engagement Librarian at John Carroll University, just outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
And I'm Brian Pichman. I'm the Director of Strategic Innovation for the Evolve Project.
All right, so this very quickly gives a little infographic of the distribution of who we are and where we work. I think it's interesting that 22% of us work something other than public or academic, that we have a lot of perspectives here. That's actually what we found as we've been talking to this panel. We have a lot of perspectives, we agree on very little. Years in our current job, we have a wide breadth in how long we've been doing our current position, and a really wide distribution over how much time each of us spends doing social media. Alex does it full time. The rest of us have it as a not terribly significant, other than Lisa, a very small portion of what we do. And so that is one of the things that we've been grappling with as a group, is how do we do this well when we have it as such a small amount of the time that we have in the rest of the universe of our jobs. Our degrees, one MA in communication, and one MFA, and the rest of us 2 MFAs. And the rest of us are library degreed. These are the platforms that we use for social media. So it's interesting, like we have a little tiny Snapchat and a little tiny Tumblr. Yik Yak is kind of big. There's something in here called Buffer that I've never heard of. We thought that we had, or what was the one we thought we had in here that's not here? Reddit. We thought we had Reddit in here, but it's not here. So we have one little tiny Reddit in there as well. All right, so the first question, and we found that we were surprised at how varied our answers were for this. So really quickly, we're going to go down the panel and say, what is our goal for social media? I guess I'll start. For me, my goal for social media for my library is more of an outreach and marketing goal. I'm concerned about all the things that my library does that our students and our user community doesn't know about. So I'm always struggling to figure out how to communicate the services that we offer so that people will be aware of them. Okay, we're going to back up a second. Alex is going to intro the larger goal. Because I took Alex's job, I'm sorry.
No, you're doing a fabulous job of it. The problem with coordinating 8 people is it's a lot to coordinate. When we talked about what our goals were for social media, we all had really different micro goals. We have different populations, we have different communities, we have different governing structures, we have really different library systems. There is no one size fits all, no, here's how you do it, here's the right thing. When we would say, oh, well, this is what it's for, the other person would say, oh, heck no, that's not what you do. So we discovered that we did have a larger macro goal, which I think probably, and take a leap of faith here, applies to everybody here. The goal of community engagement on social media is to give your patrons, your users, your population the ability to understand the value that you as a library bring to their community and the tools they might need to advocate for you when advocacy is important. Also when it's not important. But basically it goes back to telling our stories and sharing our value And how you're doing that is where we're going to be really different. So part of why I wanted to pull this panel together initially was because I felt like I was getting too much of the whole, well, here's how you do it, and that's the end of the story. And I really wanted to share, not only myself with these guys, what are we all doing, how can we learn from each other, but also be able to share those messages out to you, but also then have you guys share your experiences with your own struggles of similar things. So my goal, that was my macro goal. My personal micro goal is to literally just to build community online. Pretty much everything I do with social media is with the aim of building an online community of people who are our local users who feel like we are their buddy, we are their friend, we are on their side.
So I guess my micro goal would be similar to Alex's. Since we're such a large system and we do social media centrally, it's very difficult for us. We couldn't, even if we wanted to start promoting programs, not that we don't promote programs, but with 20 locations and 10 to 15 programs a day at each one, there's no way we can do it. It just wouldn't work. So for us, it really is much more about, hey, we want people to remember that we're here. We want them to feel good about the library. We want them, you know, when they think about books in particular, which is our main product, and when they think about information, et cetera, that the place they think of is Wake County Public Libraries, and we try to be funny.
Okay, is this on? Is this on?
The green light's on.
Hello? All right. Okay, so we use it, something that I liked about this conference is both of the keynote speakers has said that your goal should be to delight your users, and that is why I do social media for my library. I think I have it kind of easy because I'm at a university, and we are like 93% residential, so we have a very captive audience, and I like to use our social media channels like their friends do. So I try to be funny, that's what gets retweets and favorites, likes, things like that. But I mix in the fun and the mimetic with informational. So I'll use hip hop lyrics in one, and then I'll post something about our finals week services. So I try to do a mixture of both. Recently, a student, when she found out that I was the person that ran the library's social media, she said, "Oh my gosh, you're my favorite social media account to follow besides Denny's." And then I immediately looked up Denny's, and theirs is really funny. So I felt pretty good. So I like to take pictures of the building and use hashtags like selfie or woke up like this. And students just think it's really funny, and I have a lot of fun doing it, and I love my job. So I think that also translates to the communication that I'm using to the students on my campus.
Okay, remember I'm at a public library. We started out with the aim of reaching people, thinking of it like a customer service desk. There was already someone doing publicity in a different office, and we didn't want to kind of cross that line. So our initial goal, and still our goal, is to reach people who are online and using our online services, but don't come into our library buildings anymore. I felt strongly that we need to maintain these relationships so that they don't kind of weaken over time because they're not meeting us face to face. What we discovered in doing this is that social media allowed us to tell the smaller stories of the library that you can't tell through traditional media. You can tell the process of doing a big program. You can tell the fun that happens behind the scenes. You can have fun like that. The newspaper's never going to do that for us, but social media can. And finally, just to increase the number of people who know what we're doing now and not when we were kids. And increase kind of a double doors army, increase the number of people who know what we're doing right now in the library.
For us, when I worked at the University of Tennessee in the Office of Information Technology, we had so many classes available to the students, and our goal was to really make contact with the freshmen because we know that we would have them for 4 years, and we wanted to present our services and our workshops that were free for the students and make sure that they were aware of it and aware that we were there to help them if it was 24/7 in the middle of the night, if they were working on a paper and You know, they needed to create a graph in Excel or figure out how to dump a whole lot of data into a spreadsheet. We were there for them. And so we would always go to freshman orientation. I think this is interesting. We would like to have been so funny, but it was, academe is sort of hard, especially at a large university, to let go and to authenticate the voice behind the social media, because they were wanting to predominantly use it for outages and things like that, but you have to present character. You have to present that you're a person. And so we would go to freshman orientation and give like little screen cleaners with our OIT logos, and that would stick to the iPhone, you know, and then that way it would have the information for the students on how to contact us. We would also put up displays the old way that we all used to do in libraries, but we would put the QR codes or put the Twitter hashtags, how to follow us. And so that was ways that we could reach the freshmen and try to keep them and let them know of different workshops that were coming up that they could, you know, make themselves available to. Also, we did at open houses, we would have photo booths, and then we would go ahead and decide which hashtags to use, and that way these really funny photos of technology that, you know, that we could put them with, then they could share those on Twitter and then get our message out. So that was ways that we try to blend some social media with some fun with the students. So, but anyway, so that was our goal, is to capture those freshmen and hold them and be friends with them.
I think that our goal is for social media is really for it to be a gateway to the library, kind of a way to get students and faculty and staff and community members to really want to engage with us further, you know, whether it be through, you know, our space or our programs or our resources. So kind of, you know, like a little teaser to spark their interest and want to get to know us a little bit more. So really having that personality is really important to us.
So my campus, we've already established at my campus that students use the library. They're in there, our door counts are unbelievable every day, basically. So I wasn't necessarily concerned with my social media goals to get students in the library. That's not an issue. So really for me, it's about encouraging access to our services in another way. Basically, being online so that they know that they can they tweet out reference questions, things like that, and somebody is there to respond. They're sometimes a little surprised when somebody responds, but it's definitely just another mode of service to our students is kind of my main goal with social media. And I mean, we've already established in libraries that there is a lot of stress and anxiety around approaching desks. So again, that kind of is it's just another route to get to students.
So I take a little different approach. So kind of a quick thing what I do. So I find startups and I bring them into library spaces. So I don't have to do the difficult community outreach. Instead, I got to find libraries and startups that want to work together. So and this is a business model that anyone can adopt. So I use Twitter and LinkedIn to expand my circle of influence. So essentially, I'm hardcore on it. If people follow me and people talk to me, I use that to leverage my network against their network. And by showing that I have a strong network of XYZ people, other companies want to work with me and work with libraries in return. And so I guess my micro and macro goals are kind of the same, is to kind of expand that influence and then meet someone that I probably won't be able to meet otherwise. And because of these types of relationships of using LinkedIn and Twitter, like NASA reached out and they wanted to co-develop spaces with libraries because they saw my circle of influence hit their circle of influence a few times. A few startup companies that are brand new, actually, when I introduce myself to them, they go, I've heard of you from such and such. And I go, well, that's cool, because this makes the whole sales pitch a lot easier. And so that's essentially how I use social media more from a marketing standpoint for what I do and how I do it, and bringing those companies in, because I don't have a budget. So I can't go out and buy stuff I want, very similar to all you folks. And so it's pitching it on Twitter and getting it for free, I guess would be the way to do it.
All right, before we go on to question number 2, I have been asked to say out loud the hashtag that we have put out. We will probably not be responding to much of it in real time, but we're using CILSM, Computers and Library Social Media, as the hashtag, as well as the official hashtag CILDC. And after this session, we'll go back and take a look at those and respond to questions as they come up. But we really want this to be the start of a conversation, so please ask questions any way you have at your leisure. Question number 2 is, how are you reaching out to non-users? I have no answer to that.
So, of course, the non-users are always the ones that you don't know where they are. And you're not really sure why they're non-users, and you don't know what they don't know about you. So one thing that we've done recently was that we started using Meetup, which I know is a couple other libraries are doing that as well. So I know we're not the only crazy ones to be doing this. And it started with our book dating program, which turned out to not be a great program for libraries, because with libraries you want people to come back over and over again. With dating programs, you don't want people to come back over and over again. But it ended up also being really great for a lot of other things we do, like Arabic conversation class, the commuter book club we hold at a coffee shop, late night recess, which is something new that we do, where we open the library after hours and we play games in the library. And it's basically aimed at 20s and 30-somethings, people who think that the library is really not a place where they're going to socialize. So part of what we're doing is we're using Meetup to draw them in, we're using fun games to introduce them to the library, and then we have their email addresses. And part of what I really like with Meetup is because it is a pre-existing social networking platform that we don't have to run. We just set up our stuff on it, and then people can talk to each other on it. And it sends automatic reminders and things like that. So that's been very successful. It's one thing.
So we've done a couple of things. Number one is we're trying to find out more about our non-users. We've actually done a survey of our non-users. We did a survey of, I think we sent an email to 25,000 people who had used our library in the last 2 years, but not in the last year. And then we also paid to have a phone survey done. So we're trying to figure out why people are not using. We're a very metrics-driven library. In addition to that, specifically with social media, I pay to have stuff sent out to people who are not our users. So I do boosted posts with Facebook. I found it to be extremely successful. An average post, we might spend $100 and get 10,000 views. And so to me, that's an extremely efficient use of our money. Of course, you have to have good content or else nobody cares. But those are our 2 strategies.
My 2 strategies are kind of similar to what I said before, but I'll talk about the second one first. I like to collaborate with larger entities on campus, so I attend our university's weekly social media meetings. I'm the only non-university communications person at those meetings, so I've obviously made an impression that I know what I'm doing, I'm really into this, and then we collaborate on projects and things like that. Also, back to my original point for the first question, so students or our followers that retweet us or share our humor, it spreads the word about what our account is all about. I remember one finals week I was waiting for the therapy dogs to arrive, and there were these students congregating in the lobby, and this girl said to her friend, "How did you know about this?" And the girl was like, "You don't follow Rush Library on Twitter? Because that's a thing." You know, I got it. So I was like, yes. And then the therapy dog came and we posted pictures and it was great. So collaborating with larger entities on social media, and then also just kind of hooking them in with something funny and humorous that they would want to share with their friends, not only at the university, but people at other universities, because students like to brag about how awesome their university is. So when we had a midnight dance party, there was lots of Instagram tweets about that. So.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting question for me because when I write, I'm kind of writing to our tribe. And it's important for me and helps me write to have kind of personas in mind of people I'm talking to. But I've done outreach in person for years, and what the kind of place I've come to is that for the groups that my library is targeting, often face-to-face is stronger than what you can do on social media. So if we're targeting young families, if we're targeting teens, if we're targeting immigrants, if we're targeting entrepreneurs, that showing up and talking to people face-to-face about the library is more powerful than what we can do on social media. Of course, we don't have a budget to pay. If you have money, that would be fabulous. Yeah, so just for me, showing up.
Okay, with us, it's the same thing. We have surveys, and we want to know what people use for social media. We also do collaborate with other schools within the university. The face-to-face is a very, very important element, especially communicating with professors. And we found, like, for example, engineering, they're really tech savvy. But when we went to ag or to forestry, a lot of those students who are coming in from remote areas of Tennessee, they don't have the exposure to the technology that maybe the engineering students do. And likewise, the professors there who have had tenure and are there for a long time, really, really good at what they do, but they also are not really tech savvy. So it takes a lot of time at the Office of Information Technology is to go and build those relationships and talk to them about how important this is to be able to make sure that the student body is prepared. And so there's a lot of face-to-face, a lot of networking face-to-face, but then the social media then can help everybody once they get access and create those accounts. And for example, I know that you said that for colleges, people talk. And I know a lot of our students, they did not join LinkedIn, and so freshmen were like, this is really, really important for a professional image. Make sure that, you protect your social footprint and your persona that you present. Make sure it's very professional. So there's a lot of communicating that we can do, and then try to get them on board. Widgets is another thing, signature lines, or make sure that you have those widgets on your pages for your website, and that will help. Sorry.
So social media is all about the networked relationship, really, and I think you need to be able to, get to those connections and get to someone who is well connected in order to help get your message out to other people who may be non-users. I know I personally have practiced this with some of my faculty. I'm the liaison to mass communication at my college. I teach. And there's one professor who is connected to all of the other professors in the department. And once I got to be friends with her, I got to be friends with everybody in the department. So it's sort of finding who's that central node in the network, and that can really help you get your message out to everybody else. Also, I've had a lot of luck with our library posting comments on pages that are very well viewed. So I always try to make a relevant comment on the university's Facebook page. And I always get more likes after doing that because I get people who say, hey, I didn't know the library had social media presence. So, I found that those two ways really help reach some non-users.
Okay, so who is my non-user? That's what I've been trying to think about when thinking about this question, because again, I go back to, I got people in the building, not an issue. So for me, I look at my non-users as those that are not yet following me on Twitter, on Instagram, things like that. So basically, how do I get to those people? It's a little bit of an answer that kind of pulls off of what a lot of other people are talking about. Once I was able to establish a relationship with the bigger campus-wide social media accounts, I started getting a lot more likes and retweets and all of that kind of stuff. So that was one important thing that I definitely want to say is make friends with other big social media accounts on campus. And along those lines, the library's social media accounts that I run are very new otherwise too. So we're definitely still building our followers. And I actually treat a lot of my social media building, I do it through in-person stuff too. I meet with a lot of student groups on campus and just have a newly formed student advisory board. Those are all great times for me to be like, hey, blah, 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 Instagram, we're having this contest. Use this hashtag, those kinds of things. So there is definitely kind of a lot of cross-marketing happening. It's not just through social media. It is in person. I'm doing it on my flyers that I'm printing off, which still gets me that, yes, students today love to see a paper flyer. They really do. It always shocks me a little bit. So that's my non-users.
Cool. So my non-users are everyone I haven't talked to yet. Which is a scary number, I guess. And so how do I reach them? I do one of two things. One is I shoot blanks into the Twitter sphere and hope something sticks. So you ever get annoyed by those promoted tweets or promoted Facebook posts and you're like, I hate these things? I discovered that if I comment on that, I'm getting free advertising. And so through that, I commented on a promoted Chase tweet about like how they're working to donate money to school or donate money to youth organizations. So I tweeted for giggles, hey, would you consider working with libraries and kill two birds with one stone? And like I got like replies like, that's a great idea, you should do it, yeah. And then Chase emails me and they're like, hey, let's talk. And I was like, well, that was neat. And then just recently I had a weird, I tweeted to Amazon with a picture of the new Amazon Echo, my cat playing with it, and I had over almost 100,000 views and 10,000 engagements, meaning someone replied, tweeted, etc. Some of which annoyed me to no end that day because my phone just kept going off, people asking questions, or people asking questions about my cat. People ask me what I do, and then if they can meet the cat. And I was like, this is weird. And so that's essentially, so one is kind of shoot blanks into Twitter and just see what sticks. And the other is I attend different conferences that aren't library conferences. I go to tech conferences and things like that, and I just walk the floor and I say, hey, I'm Brian Pichman. And they're like, who are you? And I go, well, I do stuff with libraries. Have you ever considered working with libraries? And 9 out of 10 times they go, we don't sell books. And then we have those kind of conversations, and they look me up on the internet. I show up on LinkedIn. I have a very strong LinkedIn presence, a very strong Twitter presence. Stronger on LinkedIn than Twitter. They utilize that as, okay, he's a viable source, let's talk to him. And so that's how I reach non-users.
Okay. All right, we are, for the note for the panel, we're running short on time. So our next question is how or when do you shut down an account? So I know that we don't all have answers for these, so if we have an answer, let's go ahead and do that. I know for me that when I took over the position and realized how little time I had for social media, I decided to focus on one of our accounts and picked Facebook. So we still have Twitter and Flickr, and I have just started an Instagram account, and we have a Pinterest, and I've really been okay with letting them lie derelict, but not actually killing them, and I'm not sure that that's a good idea, but that's what I have done based on the amount of time I had to spend on the service.
So it's really all about return on investment, which is a terrible phrase, but you are all overworked and don't have enough time. So as am I. I have not yet killed anything officially, but I have let things sort of fester or linger. Or my Pinterest account for the library is currently, I don't think, doing anything for us. I have a new group that's meeting on Thursday called the Web Content Working Group, which is a group of library staff members from the branches who I'm going to be training to basically think about their programming in terms of how can you turn this into web content? How can you turn this into community building online? And I'm going to throw it out to them and say, okay, guys, how could we use our Pinterest account in a more creative, useful, sort of, not just the same old, like how can we make something out of this? I would love to kill Facebook, but I'm not going to because there are lots of people who still want us to be on Facebook, even though I find it infuriating. I have had increased success not using any money with Facebook by posting a picture on Instagram, having it then automatically post to Facebook. For some reason, maybe because Instagram is owned by Facebook and I'm using hashtags, they get a lot more views than anything natively uploaded does. I don't know why, it's super irritating, but there it is.
So we, in a way, it's been made easy for us because we have to go through a lot of hoops to open a social media account with the county. We have to build a business case. We have to say exactly how we're going to staff it. We have to do all sorts of things. So the number of outlets that we have is pretty small. As a matter of fact, really all we have is Facebook, Twitter, SlideShare, which we use for very specific reasons, and YouTube. And really, Facebook is the bread and butter of what we do. We still find that for our demographic, which is mostly women over sort of between 30 and 60, that's where most of the people are. We would like to expand that demographic, but that's who our users are. For Twitter, we basically use it. We used to try to promote events with it, and we tried really hard with Twitter to engage, to look and see what other people were saying. We just found it was so much time for so little benefit that we basically let that fester for a while. Now what we're doing is we have our librarians post a book review a day, and they do it as a tweet, and that has been pretty popular. That being said, we are looking into becoming more engaged with Instagram, and I think sort of what Alex alluded to, especially since Facebook is our bread and butter, that will probably be a pretty good decision.
Adding an account is a branch level decision. So if they give it a good try and they don't get traction, it's a joint decision to shut it down. And it's usually either because of staffing issues and just kind of lack of follow through. But we had an account that had our 3 best writers, and it still was under 50 likes. And just, we couldn't figure out why, but we shut down the account.
Okay, I had experience in that department because it takes so long to get social media into the academic world of the University of Tennessee, and there's so many benchmarks we have to go through. We haven't experienced that.
Yeah, I have a lot of accounts that just kind of fester. Google Plus, all of you are smiling, yes. And Flickr and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, we don't know what we're going to do with them, but we loathe to kill them because you never know what might happen. And I'm actually kind of hoping to shut down my library's Facebook this summer. That's actually one of my goals. I know that seems a little shocking, but on a campus, really most of our likes and engagement is happening from staff and from staff people's friends, not from our students. That's what I am consistently seeing. I'm definitely seeing more engagement on Instagram, so I'm happy to try to, you know, do that more. But I just do not know for my campus if Facebook is good, and I actually am kind of here to see if anybody else is experiencing the same thing a little bit too.
I actually agree with the Facebook thing. It doesn't work for what I do. I always consider like Twitter users or influencers. No offense to the Facebook lovers. Facebook users are engaging, Twitter users are influencers. That's usually the connotation that are given with them. So what I'm looking to do is influence. And so I tried Facebook. I guess no one wanted to be friends with a goofy looking dude. And so I was like, all right, I'll have cat pictures everywhere. And that just made it worse. And so I ended up just scrapping it all together. And so I focus most of my energy on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I've given up on Facebook.
So this is a perfect segue into our last question, which is, I think a question that we have all agreed we don't necessarily know the answer to. So if not Facebook, then what? We have heard the stories that this generation of, I'm interested in the 18 to 22-year-olds, they're not on Facebook. Where are they? Where is the next place that we need to be? Has that, like, does anyone have the answer? I can grab a microphone and start roaming the audience, or if anybody wants to stand up and talk really loud. We are interested in your questions. All right, I see purple, green, black, white.
I was just going to say, our library for teens, we moved entirely from Blogspot to Tumblr. And you see on the info way out, I still have Tumblr post stuff on Facebook, but again, staff.
Okay.
So staff is
Did everybody hear that? A move from Blogspot to Tumblr, and Tumblr still auto-posts to Facebook, but for her audience, Blogspot was not working. Tumblr has huge engagement, and that's what they auto-feed into Facebook. Okay, the woman in green behind.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if anybody was using Tumblr.
All right, all hands for Tumblr? Not that many. Okay, but some. How are people using Tumblr? Woman in red?
We actually started using Tumblr and then decided to stop because we realized our users weren't on it, because it seems like it's a very young demographic.
Okay, I saw a hand here.
We have a teen-only book club, and they post their fields on the Tumblr group.
Their fields, okay. I saw hands out of the corner of my eye.
we have, I don't know, like something like $6,000 on Tumblr. I do not responsible for it. I believe Aaron Shea did it before us.
Okay.
And it's not for our patrons, but for it's like other people that we want to influence out in library land and Tumblr communities.
All right, so Tumblr aimed at the people in this room more than at patrons. All right, anybody else using Tumblr in an interesting way that we can learn from?
I mean, we use team reviews,
Okay. Okay, so just so folks know, we are so interested in hearing more, so if you think of something later, you didn't want to talk, I'll get, you're next. And then the woman over here. We have the Librarian social media Facebook page and the Twitter hashtag, and we will be keeping this conversation going. And by the way, we approached Jane about a workshop about sort of advanced social media stuff for internet librarians, so more techniques coming in October.
So, but it's slightly technical. Paperly. I'm really curious about anyone's experience using that as a way to integrate and solve any of these issues, if you found that it helps you. I tried to get my institution sold on it, and nobody wants to listen to me.
So has anybody had any luck working with Paperly or Scoop It or these various sort of make your own newspaper kind of tools?
My immediate reaction to it whenever I see it is that it's just too random. And whenever I see somebody else including us on their Paperly, like I'm always kind of like, how did we get pulled into your feed? Or what? Yes, I feel like at the moment it feels too much like spam. I would rather focus on us figuring out how to do a better newsletter that we then tweet about, tweet out a link to, than that. But if somebody's using it well, I'd love to hear it.
I have a comment about e-newsletters. There's some study that says that an email newsletter in some ways is higher quality contact than what you get through Facebook, depending on what your goals are. And the other advantage of doing email newsletters is you own the emails, and which is not the case with Facebook or other media.
And we use MailChimp, so I don't know if you guys use that, but that's a good one.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question. Woman in the front row. Gentleman in the front row. Person in the front row.
Does anybody have an alternative to YouTube as far as embedding videos in the site?
Vimeo?
Vimeo?
So alternatives to YouTube, we heard Vimeo and we heard Vine. Are other people using video alternatives?
Actually, I was going to ask a question about possibly Periscope. It's Twitter's new live video thing.
Haven't played with it. What do you think?
It's streaming, so that
it's really easy, and you can interact with your Twitter followers. So I just wanted to see what anybody's experience was with it.
Isn't Vine also part of Twitter? How is Periscope different?
Vine makes little clips.
Yeah, Vine is too short.
Vine's a 6-second loop where Periscope is a live feed of whatever is going on.
There's also Meerkat, which does the same thing. I know that there's some libraries using it. I haven't experimented with, but I wanted to jump in and say that Facebook's video is trying to compete with YouTube, and that is actually a really good way to get interaction because more people will see those kinds of posts when you upload the video directly to Facebook. So it's actually a strategy to get reach for free.
Any last words?
1 minute before we talk.
I could say. Do you think that the students at the college aren't using Facebook because there's newer alternatives, or just like Facebook kind of old news now?
It's like Dad uses
The other thing I've seen is that they're less likely to join something like the library. They tell us that they're there for their friends. They're not interested in connecting with nonprofits or business or stuff around them.
Before we wrap this up, I have one question that y'all can answer on social media if you'd like. All of these questions about video and they give me the willies. I have hit my generation gap moment in not understanding this mode of literacy. So my question for you all is, how do you handle when you hit a type of social media that you really don't understand? How do you go about understanding it? Because that is my truest question out of all of this. And I know we don't have time, but I would love to hear your answer.
I have younger cousins who are teenagers, and I follow them and I see what they're doing, and they're all very social. So I follow them on Snapchat. Sometimes I just send them my funny faces. They love it. That's all that they use it for, is to send funny faces and pictures of cats. But that's how to communicate with them over Snapchat.
So Snapchat is the same as Twitter.
I would say that is a really good strategy. I follow my 13-year-old daughter.
I frequently run up against something that I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Why would a library do that? And then I sort of sit back and watch it, and once I see someone who I like and respect trying it, then I go and experiment with it. Basically, I'm gun shy about adopting everything new because, you know, we're way beyond that at this point. But on the other hand, I don't want to rule anything out. So I do a lot of like, play with it myself, try to figure out how it really works well, figure out how the people are using it who are using it, and then try to figure out whether or not there's a way that my library could also be part of that in a way that people would not be like, what the heck, get away from me.
I learned an awful lot from being in a fandom, so I would say look at book-centric fandoms online and see how they're communicating. They tend to be voracious and early adopters and do really inventive things.
And they're on Tumblr.
Yeah, and related to that, if you're going to find a group of people who are fans of something, they'll engage like crazy.
All right, I think we need to wrap it up. Alex is going to wind us up. And please continue this conversation with us online. We're so eager to hear what you all are thinking and talking about this.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. Part of what we wanted to do with this was start a conversation. So please talk to us in whatever format works best for you. All of our, we believe we were all, don't Snapchat Kevin, he won't like it. We are all on the library social media user page on Facebook, ironically, but that's how I found everybody. And there are, everybody who's got a Twitter handle, it's on there. But also, like, stalk us, talk to us, find us in person, because sometimes, no, 95% of the time, don't overly stalk us. That was a joke, I apologize. We don't want that. But the conversations we have in person are so much more valuable than most of what happens on social media with each other. It's a starting place, but let's actually, like, talk about stuff.